Imagine becoming one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, working alongside legends like Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Martin Scorsese, winning an Academy Award, starring in blockbuster movies that earned hundreds of millions of dollars, and then walking away from it all.
No scandal.
No public breakdown.
No dramatic farewell.
Just silence. For years, fans have asked the same question. Why would Joe Pesci leave the very career that made him a Hollywood legend? Some believed he was tired of acting. Others thought he had simply retired. But the real story is far more interesting than most people realize. Because away from the cameras, Joe Pesci had always been a very different man from the characters he played on screen. Today, we are uncovering why Joe Pesci chose to walk away from fame and what Hollywood never truly understood about him. Long before Joe Pesci became famous, Hollywood wasn't even part of his plan. Born in Newark, New Jersey, he grew up in a hard-working Italian-American family where entertainment wasn't just a drama, it was something he genuinely loved from an early age. As a child, he performed on television, sang in local clubs, and even played guitar in bands. In fact, music was his first passion. Acting came later. For years, Joe worked wherever he could. He performed in comedy clubs, played music, took small acting roles, and like thousands of other aspiring entertainers, he struggled to make a name for himself. Success didn't arrive overnight. There were years when it seemed Hollywood had completely forgotten him. Many people would have given up. Joe didn't. Everything changed in 1980. His performance in Raging Bull, directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Robert De Niro, immediately caught Hollywood's attention. Critics praised his natural acting style. Unlike many performers, Joe didn't look like he was acting. His characters felt real, raw, unpredictable. Audiences never knew what they were going to get next. That became his greatest strength. Over the next decade, Joe starred in unforgettable films including Goodfellas, Casino, My Cousin Vinny, and Home Alone. Each role showed a different side of his talent. One moment he could terrify audiences with explosive anger. The next, he could make millions laugh with perfect comic timing. Very few actors could do both. By the early 1990s, Joe Pesci had become one of Hollywood's most respected stars. He wasn't just successful. He was considered one of the industry's finest character actors. Then came one of the biggest moments of his career. In 1991, Joe won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his unforgettable role in Goodfellas. For most actors, winning an Oscar is the beginning of an even bigger career. More movies, more publicity, more attention. But Joe never seemed interested in becoming a traditional Hollywood celebrity. Unlike many stars, he rarely gave interviews. He avoided unnecessary media attention. He wasn't interested in living his life in front of cameras. Even at the height of his fame, he remained intensely private. Friends and colleagues often describe him as someone who valued peace and loyalty far more than public attention. That quiet personality stood in sharp contrast to the loud, unforgettable characters audiences saw on screen. As the years passed, Joe's reputation continued to grow. Studios wanted him. Directors trusted him. Fans loved him. From the outside, it looked like he had everything an actor could ever want. Fame, money, awards, respect. But fame often comes with a price that audiences never see. Long filming schedules, constant travel, public attention, endless expectations. For someone who preferred a quiet life, that lifestyle wasn't always appealing. While many celebrities chased bigger roles and more publicity, Joe appeared to value something completely different. Freedom. The freedom to live without cameras following his every move. The freedom to spend time on the things he truly enjoyed. And perhaps most importantly, the freedom to choose when and if he wanted to work. That was a choice very few Hollywood stars were willing to make. But Joe Pesci wasn't like most Hollywood stars. And before long, he would make a decision that shocked the entire entertainment industry. A decision that left fans wondering for years. Why would a man at the top of Hollywood willingly walk away from it all? As Joe Pesci's career reached incredible heights, something unexpected began to happen. While millions of fans wanted to see more of him, Joe seemed to want less of Hollywood. For most actors, fame is the ultimate reward. Bigger movies, higher salaries, magazine covers, award shows. But Joe never appeared comfortable with that lifestyle. Those who worked with him often describe him as someone who preferred staying out of the spotlight whenever possible. He wasn't the kind of actor who constantly appeared on talk shows or shared every detail of his personal life with the media. Instead, when filming ended, Joe usually disappeared from public view. That wasn't because he disliked his fans. It was simply because he valued privacy far more than publicity. Another thing many people didn't realize was that acting had never been Joe's only passion. Long before Hollywood made him famous, music had played a huge role in his life. He enjoyed performing, writing songs, and playing guitar. Even after becoming a successful actor, he never completely lost that interest. Whenever he stepped away from movie sets, he often returned to the quieter hobbies he had always loved. Unlike many celebrities, Joe didn't seem interested in constantly chasing the next blockbuster. He preferred choosing projects carefully rather than accepting every offer that came his way. That decision surprised many people in Hollywood. At a time when studios wanted him in film after film, Joe was becoming increasingly selective. Quality mattered more to him than quantity. By the late 1990s, Joe made a decision that shocked both fans and industry insiders. He announced that he was stepping back from acting. Almost overnight, one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars became incredibly difficult to find. Rumors quickly spread. Some believed he had retired permanently. Others thought he was unhappy with Hollywood. There were even stories claiming he no longer wanted anything to do with acting. The reality was much simpler. Joe had spent decades working under the pressure of constant filming, travel, and public attention. He had achieved everything most actors dream about: an Academy Award, classic films, worldwide recognition. He no longer felt the need to prove anything. Instead, he wanted something Hollywood could never give him: a quieter life. While fans wondered where he had gone, Joe continued living largely outside the public eye. He avoided unnecessary interviews. He rarely appeared at celebrity events. And unlike many stars, he wasn't interested in staying famous just for the sake of fame. That choice made him even more mysterious. The less people saw him, the more they wanted to know about him. Years passed without major movie roles. Yet Joe Pesci's legendary performances continued attracting new generations of fans. Goodfellas, Casino, My Cousin Vinny, and Home Alone remain some of the most watched films in American cinema. Even while absent from Hollywood, his legacy continued growing. Then, something happened that almost no one expected. Martin Scorsese began developing The Irishman. The film would reunite Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci for one final crime epic. At first, Joe reportedly wasn't interested. After spending years away from acting, returning to such a demanding production wasn't an easy decision. But Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro believed the film wouldn't feel complete without him. They continued encouraging him to take the role. Eventually, Joe agreed. When The Irishman was released, audiences immediately realized something remarkable. Joe hadn't lost his talent. If anything, his performance was even more controlled, subtle, and powerful than before. Critics praised his quiet, restrained portrayal, proving that great acting doesn't disappear with time. It simply waits for the right story. Joe's return also revealed something important. He hadn't walked away because he hated acting. He walked away because he wanted the freedom to choose when he acted and why he acted. That difference changed everything. For Joe, acting was never about staying famous. It was about telling stories he believed in. And that philosophy may explain why his career has remained so respected. But even after returning for one of the biggest films of his career, Joe still refused to embrace the Hollywood lifestyle that most celebrities chase. So why has he remained one of the most private stars in the entertainment industry? And what has his life looked like away from movie sets all these years? That's where the final chapter of Joe Pesci's remarkable story begins. After The Irishman premiered, many fans believed Joe Pesci was officially back. His performance received widespread praise. Critics admired how much he could say without raising his voice. Unlike the explosive characters that made him famous in Goodfellas and Casino, this version of Joe Pesci was calm, controlled, and deeply emotional. It reminded audiences why he had always been considered one of Hollywood's finest actors. But something surprising happened after the film's success. Joe didn't return to the spotlight. He didn't sign a long list of new movie deals. He didn't begin appearing on television every week. Instead, he quietly stepped away once again. That decision confirmed what many of his closest friends had known for years. Joe Pesci never wanted fame to define his life. For him, acting was always a passion, not a lifestyle. Unlike many celebrities, Joe has spent decades protecting his privacy. He rarely gives interviews. He stays away from social media. He avoids the constant attention that follows most Hollywood stars. In today's world, where celebrities often share every detail of their lives online, Joe has chosen a completely different path. He believes that not every part of life needs to be public. That choice has only added to the mystery surrounding him. The less people hear from Joe Pesci, the more curious they become. Ironically, by walking away from fame, he became even more fascinating. One reason Joe has remained so respected is the way he carefully chose his roles. He was never interested in appearing in dozens of movies every year. Instead, he focused on projects that challenged him and worked with directors he trusted. His partnership with Martin Scorsese and friendship with Robert De Niro helped create some of the greatest crime films ever made. Those collaborations weren't successful because of big budgets alone. They worked because of mutual respect. Joe never needed to be the center of attention. He simply wanted to tell great stories alongside talented people. That approach earned him the admiration of actors across generations. Many younger performers still study his work to understand how powerful subtle acting can be. Looking back, it's clear that Joe Pesci achieved something few actors ever do. He left Hollywood on his own terms. He wasn't forced out by poor box office results. He wasn't pushed aside by changing trends. He simply reached a point where personal happiness mattered more than staying famous. That's a rare decision in an industry where many people spend their entire careers chasing more attention. Joe proved that success isn't about remaining in the spotlight forever. Sometimes, real success is having the freedom to walk away when you choose. Today, Joe Pesci's legacy is stronger than ever. New generations continue discovering Goodfellas, Casino, My Cousin Vinny, Home Alone, and The Irishman. His performances remain just as powerful today as they were decades ago. That's because great acting doesn't depend on trends. It stands the test of time. Whether he played a dangerous gangster, a quick-witted lawyer, or an unforgettable comedy character, Joe brought authenticity to every role. He made audiences believe every word, every expression, every moment. Very few actors leave behind that kind of impact. So, why did Joe Pesci really walk away from fame? Not because he stopped loving movies. Not because Hollywood rejected him. And not because he had nothing left to offer. He walked away because he had already accomplished everything he wanted. He valued privacy over publicity, peace over constant attention, and personal freedom over endless fame. In a world where many celebrities struggle to leave the spotlight, Joe Pesci showed that true confidence doesn't come from being seen everywhere. Sometimes, it comes from knowing you've already left your mark. And perhaps that's the real reason Joe Pesci remains one of Hollywood's most respected and mysterious legends. If you enjoyed this story, let us know in the comments. Which Joe Pesci performance do you think was his greatest? Goodfellas, Casino, My Cousin Vinny, Home Alone, or The Irishman? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more untold stories about Hollywood legends, classic films, and the stars who changed cinema forever. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.